I want you guys to meet Tom Kaschuk here, and he wrote what some people could consider to be the Bible here in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Cleveland's Neighborhood Taverns. So when did you dream this up? While sitting at a bar, walking by a bar, or thinking of a bar?
I've always thought of bars. I grew up in Slavic Village, and at the corner of my street there were 3 bars, which was pretty common. And within a mile range from East 71st, there was about 70 bars. So from a very early age, I was exposed to a lot of taverns.
A lot of taverns, and we're at the Happy Dog right now, which is a tavern amongst how many in this area? I mean, this is a pretty dense area for bars.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Happy Dog has a very long history, and one of the issues was that at one point there were too many tavern licenses, and they had a fight for theirs that went all the way to Ohio Supreme Court, as a matter of fact. But just in this neighborhood alone, I counted about 80 bars.
So when I started reading this book and looking at this book, I started thinking of, like, in a way, bars in these neighborhoods, they were almost like churches, because every neighborhood had their own church, and every neighborhood had its own bar.
Exactly. Actually, I traced the history of Cleveland through the lens of a tavern. And you know, the first tavern owner was our first resident, Lorenzo Carter. So Lorenzo Carter's first tavern on the banks of the Cuyahoga was the first place there was a dance and a church service. So it goes way back. It was a place where there was community. And actually, when I was a kid, it was the place where we would go in that had a window air conditioning unit at night.
Talk about community. So I come in here to the Happy Dog to meet you for the first time, and I see your friends back there, and it's community. I mean, it is what? It's 10 o'clock in the morning here, and people they have a beer and they're hanging out, and it's sort of like, that's the historical thing about these bars in these neighborhoods. I mean, guys would get off work in the 3rd shift, and where would they go?
Exactly. They would head right to the tavern. One of the taverns I talk about a lot
was
is
breakfast back then.
Exactly. The Raleigh Inn, right above the mills.
Yeah.
Or you go on Broadway, go up Dilly Hill, and you were attracted to about 15 taverns right on the corner of Broadway and about East 40th Street.
There's also a place, I understand, where people would come to cash their paychecks.
Exactly. Actually, the first check cashing store in the United States came out of the idea of a tavern because the tavern owners were sick and tired of getting robbed. So Jack's Musical Bar on Cedar Road was the first place ever that had a standalone check cashing place to try to solve that problem. But that's where you cashed your money, your money.
So what were some of the great surprises for you? I mean, this book just covers the Cleveland neighborhoods, right? So
correct.
How big an area is that?
In the 1960s, there were about 1,800 bars right within the city of Cleveland. Yeah, and I thought, did I just grow up in the area where there were a lot of bars? Absolutely not. St. Clair, there were more. There were about 40 bars within a mile from East 38th to about East 79th Street. So the bars were everywhere in Cleveland.
And how about the variety of food and culture and ethnic groups?
Yeah, exactly. Every bar, that was a big attraction. Each ethnic group had their own areas. Slavic Village, where I grew up.
Yeah.
All the Polish bars, so you knew where to go for that specialty to get the roast.
I understand what you're talking about.
Roast duck.
Yeah.
And a tradition that carries over even to this day, of course, is fish fries.
Yeah.
Which originated, it was Lenten. Take your family to the neighborhood tavern for a fish fry. But every bar had their food specialty.
You know, and he brings up a really good word there, family. So the bar wasn't just a place you go out at night to meet girls or a saloon kind of thing. It was like a family gathering place for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. When I was a child, I didn't know there was a standalone restaurant. I thought the only place you went out to eat was in a neighborhood tavern.
So what was the greatest surprise in this, the biggest discovery for you?
It was the amount of taverns that had the same similar story. It was somebody that came to the United States, an immigrant. They would go fight for the country, go to war, come back, buy or rent a little neighborhood tavern just as this, live upstairs, get married, have a family, and their whole generation and the next generation would own and run the tavern. Mom would be cooking, grandma would be cooking the food, and the family lived there for generations, and that was all over the inner city of Cleveland.
So if you ever thought that your family's never been part of a book or part of a novel or part of anything, you go into Cleveland's neighborhood taverns, and I tell you, you'll find somebody you know or somebody you remember in this great legacy of the Cleveland area.
When I give talks and presentations, one of the first questions I'll always ask a group is, how many in the crowd have a uncle, a father, a grandfather, or a close friend that owned or basically lived in one of the neighborhood taverns, and probably about 80% will raise their hand.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us and giving us information. Cleveland's Neighborhood Taverns. You see the information on the screen if you'd like to get a copy. And it's beautiful work, man.
Thanks, appreciate it.